Fellas, we need to talk about the Hoka One Mach 4. This is crazy. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha. Today, we are obviously discussing my first impressions of the Hoka One Mach 4. Now, for some general context, I have not run in a Hoka One shoe seriously since at least late 2017, early 2018. We'll kind of go over that shoe in a second here. So it's been about 3 to 4 years since I've rocked one of these shoes, and I am really stoked to talk about this one because, my God, did I have a good time with this. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. You guys know how the rest of this goes. If you're ready to subscribe to the channel, love you guys very much. Without further ado, specs right here for this particular shoe. But before we talk about it, I'm just going to kind of give you guys a brief history of my Hoka One series, as I guess we can say. So back when I was really suffering with like shin splints back in like late 2016, early 2017, I was looking for shoe alternatives that had like large foam, basically midsoles and outsoles, and just trying to kind of work that out. And eventually Hoka One kind of came into my sights, and I originally had rocked the Arahi. I forget which model particularly this is. I don't think it's written on the shoe, but basically I've had 4 different pairs of this exact Arahi at any point in time between 2017 and about 2018. And as you can tell, I've loved this shoe a lot. As you can see from the outsole, basically this rubber is like shredded out down here. It's shredded here in the heel. Obviously, you can tell that I had very weak hips while I was running with the shoe, as it had grazed a lot against the other shoe, against basically my calf muscles. So this thing was a journey to run in back in the day. And then after that, the Zoom Fly came out from Nike, and I had switched shoes entirely, and Hoka One was behind me. Because this was a comfort shoe, it wasn't a very fast shoe, but I did run a Chicago Marathon, I think in this exact pair at the time. And yeah, it was a good time overall. I would never complain about the Arahi other than that. It was just, you know, it was a dream come true to run in a shoe like this way back in the day. Now, fast forward from 3-4 years later, I guess it's 4 now, the Mach 3. I had kind of a presumption of what would be going on with this shoe when I had bought it, but all of that got thrown out the window in the first mile of running in this shoe. Oh my gosh. So let me tell you. Basically, I'm going to start this off just really heavy for everyone who wants like the quick take on it. If you enjoyed the Pegasus Turbo 2, this might be the best #1 contender to be the shoe's replacement outside of Nike. Here's why. So first things first, obviously let's discuss some of the specs. Again, it's 7.9 ounces, so it's like 8 ounces, depending on your size. In this case, it's 8.5, so it's just slightly around that 7.9, 8 ounce area. 220 grams, puts it a little bit, like a smidgen heavier than the Peg Turbo 2. Not a big deal because the shoe still feels extremely light on that front. Now, the heel stack height and the forefoot area, I believe it's 35 millimeters in the heel, 30 in the forefoot, giving it about a 5 millimeter stack height. Pretty neutral on that front. That is one of the defining differences, I would say, from the Peg Turbo 2. So again, in this upper, it's like a generic mesh upper that Hoka One seems to be using. It's got a nice kind of pattern to it. It's fairly okay in terms of breathability. I haven't fully tested it out on that front, like on an 1.5 to 2 hour long style run. My Strava here is basically what I did today. I think it was like just about 8 miles. And yeah, it was a wonderful 8 miles overall. The tongue, this is where things are cool. The tongue, it doesn't have a whole lot of material. It is kind of gusseted in this case. But yeah, again, not a whole lot of material. Not a bad deal overall, as far as I'm aware. In the shoe collar, as you can see, it's got this profound heel. I guess it's a little bit longer. It's the rear tongue is just obviously a little bit bigger, kind of following the same idea of like the New Balance 1080 version 11. Seems to be the big trend to make these tongues a little bit wider and not have like that pull tab on it. Cool beans, whatever. And in the shoe collar itself, a lot of comfort, a lot of plush again. And this is where the magic happens. I think this is one of the best fit shoes in terms of a daily trainer that I've had in a while, that like once you're in the shoe, it just feels like you're definitely in it. It's not like the 1080 version 11 where it constantly feels like you have this heel slip because the material and the design of the heel is so different, but it's like you're just locked in. And this is also very different than the Arahi as I've had in the past, where the Arahi had all this plush, but there was a lot of wiggle room regardless. So let's talk about the bottom, or in this case the midsole, outsole. Basically, this is where the magic of it feeling like a Peg Turbo 2 ultimately comes into fruition. Let's first kind of just show off the bottoms after 8 miles before we get into it. So you can see it's just a little bit dirty. No profound wear and tear as of right now, and I know that Hoka One One typically has an outsole that is usually the bottom layer of foam, at least as far as I'm aware of it, and it's got like this wide kind of area to it too. Looks kind of like a brick, kind of very cool with it, and regardless. So yeah. Anyways, let's talk about what's going on here. Basically, there's 2 types of foam that follow pretty much the exact same structure of the Pegasus Turbo 2. That is this Pro Fly foam, this red piece of foam that runs all the way across. It's very soft. It feels like a Zoom X in a sense. And then this bottom foam, which I think, for the sake of comparison, is definitely feeling more like a React. I don't have a name to it, but it is definitely a foam that is doubling as the outsole of the shoe 100% across, minus this heel area, which is the Pro Fly, just kind of built in there regardless. So there's no rubber padding on the shoe that is reinforcing any of the foam as I currently see it. But that's okay. There's a lot of shoes that are out there that kind of follow this design. So last thing here to discuss is probably the heel of the shoe. So now you would think with a shoe this soft and this plush that there would be a little bit more like heel softness, but this is actually like really tough, and I'm actually a fan of it because it ensures that you have a really good heel lockdown when you can't really push this material whatsoever. And I think it has to do with this decal, and maybe there's something inside here as well that's also got a little bit of reinforcement, but it definitely helps with the lockdown and the fit of this shoe. So now that we got kind of like the general things out of the way, some pros and cons, I guess we can throw them out there. So one of the major pros, definitely, like, this ride is insanely comfortable for being an everyday trainer that you can push to a more tempo speed if you see fit. As I mentioned before, if you liked and loved the Pegasus Turbo 2, you're going to like this, with one caveat, and this is the one gripe I've always had with Hoka One One, especially with my old pair of Arahis, is you're going to have to experiment with size a lot, because Hoka One One typically tends to run a little bit bigger than the average running shoe on the market. That being said, I remember in the past running typically in size 9 shoes, and I was very comfortable with it. But once I had a Hoka One One in a size 9, I started developing black toenails from basically really bad impact with my feet in the shoes, and as I dropped that half size down, everything was perfect, changed my life forever. So yeah, basically running in an 8.5 now permanently in a Hoka One One shoe, and the fit seems to be really good, and I think it's true to size on that front now. And maybe Hoka One One has fixed this issue with running a little bit bigger than usual. Now, I know there's an option for a wide version of this shoe. This is, I think, the standard. I think this was 8.5D, so that might just be, you know, just the regular build for the shoe. But if you do think you need a wider toe box, or you know that you're a wide toe box runner, it could be worth not trying to get the wide toe box until you try out just their standard, just to see if you like it. Because sometimes, like I mentioned before, the toe box and the shoes sometimes run a little bit bigger than normal. Now, what else is good about this? Again, the ride feels exactly like the Peg Turbo 2, where you have this soft foam on the top and then this React, per se, on the bottom that really just kind of gives you a nice push that's responsive to whatever you put into this shoe. It doesn't have a carbon plate, obviously. It doesn't need one. In my opinion, this is supposed to be a daily trainer, not necessarily a racer. But if you wanted to race in this, be my guest. It's a very comfortable shoe to race in, and just like running in basically. I would even say like walking in it is pretty nice if you're just looking for something nice to walk in. So that's kind of where I'm stopping with this in my first impressions. If I had a con whatsoever, it would probably lean more towards the breathability of the shoe in the long run. Again, I can't comment on it too much right now because I haven't had an issue with it right now where, you know, my socks would be like completely drenched and I would just feel the weight of my feet kind of dragging along in the shoe, like 12, 13 miles into like some kind of long run. But again, it doesn't seem like this mesh upper has nearly as much breathability, but that's okay for now. We'll see how it plays out in the long game of having this shoe. But as of right now, this is a spectacular shoe. I am pleasantly surprised, and obviously thank you to the comment section for recommending this shoe, because you guys are the real MVPs who said, hey, try out the Mach 4, it's going to change your life. So far, the daily trainer game has definitely been changed. So there's going to be a lot of comparisons I'm going to have with the New Balance 1080 version 11 on this front, the Peg Turbo 2 as well, to really break down the differences and similarities. But that's going to be something a little bit more down the road. Just kind of a heads up, you're going to see those videos coming up soon. But right now, I would definitely recommend this for definitely like everyday road training. Now, in terms of using it on like gravel and like cross-country terrains, it's a little bit questionable just because of, you know, the build of the outsole. But I mean, it's probably not impossible. It's just, this is definitely intended for road running. So that's all I think I can kind of lay out on there. So yeah, I'll stop right there for now. And I think I'll just review this after 100 plus miles, what the wear and tear looks like, what the foam fatigue is like. But yeah, there's plenty to still discuss. But I'm going to leave this right here. So if you enjoyed the video, definitely like it. If you enjoyed the content, this style of content, subscribe as well. Definitely leave your comments below if you have a Mach 4 or its predecessor, the Mach 3. Just let me know how you guys feel about both of those shoes. If this comparison does feel similar to a Peg Turbo 2, or it compares to something else you have, you love it, you hate it, you know, you guys know how this comment thing works. So I'll leave this video here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys real soon.